I want you all to also know that I share this day with one of the finest people I know, and that is Audrey Lipman. She and I share this birthday together. And I'm so honored to have all of you here. I mean that sincerely. I don't want to talk too long and I don't want to be too emotional, but it was August 20th, 1947. My parents were living in San Diego because my dad was stationed there with the United States Navy, and I was born. And I was born when I was very young. But I've lived all over California. I've been all over California. I love California. But I love Davis very, very much. So I want to thank all of you for being my neighbors and friends. And some of you are my neighbors from Sacramento, and some of you are my neighbors from Woodland, but we're all neighbors and friends. And I will tell you that I think we're living in an interesting time. In my life, I have never been more disappointed in a person who was elected to public office than the current President of the United States. But I think that the important thing to take from that is that we have to organize and make sure that we make good public policy here in California.
That's right.
And you all know my first priority is education. And I can't thank Marty enough for her leadership on many levels, but everybody here cares about education. And I'm not ashamed to say to the people in this room, it is my #1 priority. It is the most important thing the state does. It is in the state constitution that that's supposed to be our first priority. But I want the whole panoply. I want child development. There's a bunch of families out there that are struggling. There were 300,000 families on waiting lists to get child development. 300,000. In 2007, when the recession hit, child development was only 3% of the state budget, but it took 20% of the cuts. And so they've never restored that money. K-12, we used to be 5th of the 50 states. A lot of us in this room grew up in a state where we were tied with New York in per pupil spending. Tonight, we're 41st. But I'm horrified to tell you we're #1 in per prisoner expenditure in the nation. At $75,000 a prisoner. And we aren't doing a good job of helping our young people who get into trouble to not get into trouble again. So we've got a lot to do, but at the end of the day, education, of course, many of you are associated with this great university. A lot of us are graduates of UC Davis or have a great love and affinity for it. But whether it's UC Davis or the community college or the state university system, all education, career and technical education, every piece of education is vital to us. I once debated Milton Friedman. Some of you have heard this story, and the voucher was on the ballot, and this dad got up in the Silicon Valley auditorium and he said, you know, frankly, I have 3 kids of my own, and I can't worry about other people's children. I'm just worried about my children. I want a voucher so my children can go to a good private school. I said, oh, you don't fly? He says, well, I fly all the time. I said, well, next time you're in an airplane, remember somebody else's child's the pilot. Somebody else's child machined the parts in that wing assembly when it lifts up so beautifully and you land safely. And somebody else's child's the air traffic control tower, seeing you and your family safely home. This country runs on other people's children. But we have so many other crises. We have a housing crisis. We should be building a unit of housing for every job and a half we're creating. Instead, we're creating a unit of housing for every 6 jobs that are created. As a result, we have many, many young people living at home with their parents, or living homelessly in RVs and vans. So housing has to be a priority. The environment. Everybody who lives in this community understands the vitality of the environment is critical to who we are, in spite of the fact that the knuckle dragger in DC doesn't believe in more global warming. Science. So at the end of the day, I also believe we all have a commitment to health care for all, and I just want to say that. We are spending more and getting less than any other country on earth. It's time for the grown-ups to step up and say, we're going to make sure everybody in this society has health care. I say to each of you, I can't thank you enough for your friendship. I'm one of the luckiest people I know. I'm rich in ways that don't show up in bank accounts, but that do show up in a room like this today. I thank you very, very much for believing in me. And I know there are some people that think, does she really have a path to victory? Well, I always like the line in Alice in Wonderland where the king says, queen says, I mean, I've believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. And I don't think this is impossible. I think this is doable. And I think it's exciting a lot of young people, and a lot of older people, and a lot of people in between that somebody is really willing to speak the truth. I'll close with this. Many of you know my favorite quote is Neil Postman, who said, "Children are living messages we send to a time we will never see." What is our message to the future? I want it to be great education, clean water, a wonderful environment, wonderful future. Planning as well. We got to do some long-range planning. You know, the Oroville Dam thing should be a wake-up call for everybody.
Right.
You can't say we don't have a water plan. We do. Done under Governor Brown, Pat Brown, 1957. So we got to get somebody nimble enough to look down the road. But because many of the people here today worked for me, I can say I am not afraid to hire people smarter than me to work for me, and that's been part of my success.